On a crisp March morning in 1960, a moment of history unfolded at an airport in New Jersey. As tearful goodbyes filled the air, Elvis Presley climbed aboard a military plane, leaving behind the chaos of his stint in the Army. Just hours later, he landed at McGuire Air Force Base, marking the end of his military service. But this wasn't just any soldier heading home. Elvis was returning to a nation that had both idolized and judged him, especially the influential Senator Kefauver. Just days before Elvis boarded that plane, Kefauver read a heartfelt tribute to him in Congress, calling Elvis a G.I. Joe for his service. As Elvis stepped off that plane, the world was ready to welcome him back. The media was there, cameras flashing, eager to capture the moment. But Elvis wasn't just a returning soldier, he was a phenomenon. His image had already begun to shift from the rebellious young musician to something more wholesome, thanks to his time in the military and shrewd management by his father's business partner, Colonel Parker. The next day, Elvis faced the press in a cramped room at Graceland, his home. It was March 7, 1960, and the atmosphere was electric. Reporters bombarded him with questions about his future, his time in the Army, and his feelings about being back home. Elvis laughed, joked, and showed a side that was both casual and surprisingly mature. He told young American men facing military service to play it straight and do their best. This advice reverberated because Elvis had just proved that serving his country didn't mean losing his identity. Colonel Parker had been preparing for this moment, crafting a narrative that framed Elvis's military service as a patriotic act. It worked. Elvis's return was celebrated not just as a homecoming, but as a triumphant return of a national treasure. Hollywood, sensing an opportunity, quickly moved to capitalize on Elvis's new image. A special show with Frank Sinatra, originally a rival, became a welcome home Elvis celebration, showcasing Elvis's newfound maturity and talent. The Sinatra special was a turning point. Elvis performed alongside the legendary Rat Pack, proving he could hold his own against seasoned performers. His rendition of Witchcraft was particularly impressive, showing off his vocal skills and earning praise. This performance proved that Elvis was not just a rock and roll star, but a versatile talent capable of competing on any stage. Back in the recording studio, Elvis seized the moment to explore new musical territories. His sessions in Nashville were a revelation. With the same musicians who had backed him before his Army stint, he recorded an array of songs, pushing the boundaries of what was expected of him. The inclusion of an operatic ballad allowed him to showcase his newly honed vocal skills, a testament to his growth since his last recordings. In July, It's Now or Never was released, a romantic and emotive reimagining of an Italian folk song. It became his second consecutive #1 hit, proving his enduring appeal. Following that, Are You Lonesome Tonight? And Surrender continued his streak of chart-topping singles, each one highlighting his evolving sound and style. Elvis's post-Army recordings were more than just hits, they were a transformation. He demonstrated mastery over various genres, from ballads to blues, infusing each with his unique energy. Songs like A Mess of Blues and Reconsider Baby showcased his raw talent, while even pop rock tunes gained an edge that set them apart from the chart fillers of the time. His version of Such a Night, released 4 years later, hinted at the brilliance that could have been if released sooner. Elvis's return was not just a comeback, it was a rebirth. He had emerged from the Army not just as a soldier, but as a more refined artist, ready to conquer the music world once again. His journey post-Army would continue to redefine what was possible for a musician, proving that service could refine, not restrict, talent. In the early 1960s, Elvis Presley was on top of the music world. He kept making songs and albums, including a special gospel album called His Hand in Mine, which did really well. From 1960 to 1962, he had many hit songs. Some of these songs were written by songwriters connected to Hill and Range. These songwriters knew how to make songs that let Elvis show his voice in new ways. One of these songwriters was Don Robertson, who wrote romantic songs with a country feel. Another was Doc Pomus, who often wrote for groups like the Drifters. Mort Schumann was another key writer who contributed to Elvis's success. These writers helped Elvis go beyond just having hit songs. They gave him a chance to show his skills as a singer. However, despite this success, Elvis's recording time started to shrink in 1962. His manager, Colonel Parker, decided it was best for Elvis to focus more on movie soundtracks. This decision made sense for a few reasons. First, the soundtracks were a great way to make money without spending too much. Second, they helped promote Elvis's movies, which were doing really well. For instance, the soundtrack for GI Blues did very well, and Blue Hawaii's soundtrack gave Elvis another big hit with Can't Help Falling in Love. Colonel Parker convinced Elvis that concentrating on soundtracks was smart. These soundtracks meant Elvis could fulfill his contract with RCA without having to make too many singles. Plus, a hit from a soundtrack could boost a movie's success and get more people to see it in theaters. But this change wasn't without its downsides for Elvis. He had always loved making music and felt most alive when he was singing and playing. This new focus took that away. Recording only for movies meant fewer chances to be creative. The songs he had to record for the movies were often not very good. They were written just to fit the story, and sometimes they were silly. This change made Elvis feel trapped. He had always thrived on experimentation and creativity in his music sessions. Now, he felt limited. The songs for the movies weren't giving him the same excitement or challenge. As a result, he became less enthusiastic about recording. By the mid-1960s, he was mostly doing movie soundtracks in just 1 or 2 takes. This was a far cry from the careful and dedicated work he had done in his earlier years. Colonel Parker also tried to limit Elvis's public appearances. There were lots of offers for concerts and TV shows after Elvis got back from the army, but Parker mostly turned them down. He only agreed to a few special events like the shows Elvis did in Memphis and Honolulu for charity. These shows were big successes. They showed that Elvis still had the power to captivate an audience. Despite these limitations, Elvis continued to perform when he could. His concerts were special moments where he could truly connect with his fans. But these moments became rarer as his movie career took over. Elvis's main focus shifted to making movies, and this change marked the start of a new, more challenging phase in his career. After serving in the Army, Elvis Presley and his manager, Colonel Parker, saw movies as a great path forward. They believed movies could give Elvis both money and a chance to show his acting skills. Elvis loved music and performing, but after coming back from Germany, he wanted to become a serious actor. Parker lined up projects for him, including 2 films with 20th Century Fox. These films were meant to show Elvis in a new light, moving away from his image as just a rock and roll singer. The first of these new projects was GI Blues. This movie was a light-hearted musical about a soldier in Germany. In this film, Elvis played a character who was good but not very complex. The movie was very popular and made lots of money, but it wasn't very memorable. Elvis and Parker thought this movie would help Elvis take on more serious roles later. However, some people like Parker and the movie producer Hal Wallis weren't sure if Elvis could really become a serious actor. They thought simple, safe movies were perfect for him. Elvis's next film was Flaming Star. Here, he played a Native American soldier, a role originally meant for Marlon Brando. This role was more serious and dramatic, something Elvis really wanted to do. But the director, Don Siegel, didn't respect Elvis, and this made Elvis feel bad about himself. Elvis tried hard at first but soon lost interest. The movie didn't do well when it came out. It didn't make as much money as expected, and it showed Elvis wasn't the best fit for serious films. Next up was Wild in the Country. This film started with promise. It was based on a good book and had a director, Philip Dunn, who wanted to make a real movie. But again, Elvis faced pressure from Parker and others to add songs and silly scenes. Dunn wanted to help Elvis but couldn't because of these pressures. Elvis felt embarrassed by the musical scenes and didn't put much effort into them. As a result, the movie wasn't successful at the box office. It showed that trying to push Elvis into serious roles without his full commitment didn't work. These experiences made Elvis feel unsure of himself. He was used to being in control when singing or performing live, but in front of the camera, he felt stiff and nervous. He often spoke quickly, which made people laugh instead of taking him seriously. This behavior made many in Hollywood think Elvis was just a charming actor who wasn't really interested in serious acting. They saw him more as a money-making star than a true talent. Elvis relied on his friends for support, bringing them to sets and hanging out during breaks. This behavior made it seem like he wasn't serious about acting. People in Hollywood began to think Elvis was just a pretty face and his films were just a safe bet for money while the movie industry changed and costs went up. In front of the camera, Elvis struggled. He was not relaxed and often delivered his lines too fast, making everyone laugh, even his friends. He seemed to lack the drive to become a top-level actor like he did in his earlier hits such as Jailhouse Rock and King Creole. In simple terms, after trying to be serious in a few movies, Elvis found it hard to convince everyone, including himself, that he could be more than just a popular singer turned movie star. His lack of confidence and the constant pressure to include music in his films held him back. This period taught Elvis that moving into serious acting was tough and that sticking to what he knew best was safer, at least for his career at the time.